This is a Two Front podcast.
Why is it that we dentists can't fucking stop?
The deal is just real simple. This is dentistry and we're dentists. We just want to drive the steering wheel.
Today, we have the OG of dentistry, Dr. Howard Farran.
With the internet, no dentist should ever have to practice solo again. I took that $1 million and hired 13 programmers. A year later, we launched DentalTown. This was going to massively solve my problem. I did not want to practice solo again. What is an average dentist? I don't even know. They're half boys, half girls, half tall, half short. I mean, there's no average, but yeah, you need to have ownership. They need to be in the driver's seat.
It's about actually having the time and the mind share to have a life outside of dentistry. If you want to be a happy dentist, if you don't have clinical autonomy, walk out the door.
If somebody without a degree tells you how to do clinical dentistry, you should walk up to the other and say, okay, I'm going to drive straight to the Arizona State Board of Dental Examiners and talk about practicing without a license, or you're going to fire that bitch right now, because that ain't how dentistry runs.
You got a crooked smile, well that don't bother me much. You double over working double time, you double tough. I'll just shine it up until the sun hit like a glare. I gotta dare, get the fuck up out the chair.
Welcome back to The Happy Dentist. Today, we have the OG of dentistry, Dr. Howard Farran. Howard, welcome to the show.
What an honor to be on your show. I'm a big fan of your show.
Oh, thank you so much.
This is so full circle for me, Ingrid. Like when I was in my residency, I swear I probably spent 6 hours a day on DentalTown. I mean, honestly, because whenever I had Wi-Fi, because I didn't actually have a cell phone that worked, I just had to use Wi-Fi in Brazil. I was just on DentalTown all day, looking at Scott Luna's stuff, finding out things that Howard was posting. Like it's very full circle for me, Howard, to now have you on our podcast.
That is so cool. Especially since that your dad's a dentist and we're the same age. So I'm old enough to be your dad. So that is so cool.
Well, Howard, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, which would be pretty hard to imagine at this point, you obviously lead DentalTown. You have 160,000 community members. You built a community before it was cool to build a community, starting in 1999. I would just love to hear your story around DentalTown. Why'd you start it?
Yeah, we beat Facebook by 5 years. They were in 2000 and we were 5 years ahead of Facebook. I had 4 kids and the teachers were saying they need to get this AOL, and it was just crazy to do schoolwork. And I was doing that AOL, and then Amazon went public and this internet thing, and I was watching the Amazon just skyrocket, and I was so damn dumb. It took me 4 years to figure out the internet thing. And one day I was at Barnes & Noble and I said, do you got any books on this internet www thing? And they only had 4. And so I bought all 4. And about halfway through the 3rd book, I thought, oh my God, this means, I'm professionally isolated and lonely. And I just wanted to post an x-ray and say, I did this and I'm still having problems, because the guy across the street thinks you're a competitor, but the guy in the next state or country is your colleague. And I thought, my God, with the internet, no dentist should ever have to practice solo again. And I had just paid off all my debt, and I had just saved. I just passed 1 million in savings, and I took that $1 million and hired 13 programmers. And a year later, in 98, and a year later, we launched DentalTown, and it was just the most selfish thing I ever did. And it's like, this was going to massively solve my problem. I did not want to practice solo again. I wanted to be able to have dentists embarrass the hell out of me by, why does this root canal sensitive? They draw a red line. That's a canal. Yeah, you missed an entire canal. And then it was so special. I mean, now these kids are born and it's just taken for granted, like freeways and interstates and airplanes. But it was just, loved it.
Oh, wow. It's so incredible how interconnected your mission is with what we're doing here on the podcast. It sounds like your whole mission was to create community and loneliness in this profession. Our tagline is helping dentists get the fuck out of the chair, which really to us, it's some people come to us and write in the comments like, "Oh, but I love dentistry. I don't want to stop practicing." It's not what it's about. It's about actually having the time and the mind share to have a life outside of dentistry and not being a slave to dentistry. Because honestly, what we're getting at is like you need to understand the business fundamentals of dentistry to be able to actually thrive. And so I just want to share also your content is so good. Kyle's obviously like the expert content creator. I follow Kyle and you, Howard. All of your posts are so thoughtful. They have so much value. I can remember all of them. I have so many of them saved. And I just think like if every dentist could have could internalize what you're saying here, it could make such a big difference. So I'd love to just hear, how do you make your content?
Well, that it's so bizarre that you're asking me that very specific question because, I've had a media company since 1994, DentalTown, OrthoTown, Hygiene Town, the Farran Report, and we just changed our entire model. Basically, it was about a year and a half ago. I have four sons. One of them graduated as a crackpot AI freak programmer. And he had it was just like the internet wake up, and he kept telling me about this, and we brought him on about the same time as ChatGPT went live, and same thing. I'm like, okay, whatever, whatever, whatever. And then finally it hit me. It's like, oh my God, I used to write all these articles. Now I was in touch. I'm extremely addicted. Think of a chain smoker that smokes 4 packs a day. That's me on DentalTown since 1999. I totally addicted to my own product. So I'm already hearing everyone else's thoughts. So my thoughts are the community's thoughts. And the dentists, I always tease them, they'll argue about whether today's Tuesday or not. I mean, there's nothing they won't passionately argue about. But then with the AI, what I realize is that instead of me talking into a tape recorder and then translating to words and editing and all that stuff, now what we're doing is I will take a subject like say lasers, and I'll go pull up lasers on DentalTown, and the programmers have made me a deal, and I'll pull up like 5,000 posts on lasers, and then I'll say condense this to 600 words, and boom, there it is. And I mean, it's just amazing how it picks up all the nuances. And the bigger the sample size, the more like, if 90% are saying yay and 10% are saying it just, and then of course you proof it and you own it and you read it. But now that's the business model that a lot of major medias are doing, where they one of them, I think it was Business Week, just fired 20% of their journalists and replaced them with people that are AI programmers who are in journalism. It's always that 1+1 = 2. AI is not going to do anything. It's just a high-speed calculator. I mean, we went from long division by hand on a chalkboard to a calculator, and I don't care how fast that calculator goes. It's never going to wake up one morning and say, "Get the fuck out of the chair." I mean, it's never going to be a human. It's a digital, and you love your dog, you love your cat, and they're afraid of this thing because the big powers that be always use fear. And there was like, oh, AI is going to take over the world, so you better let us regulate it. And who do they bring in? Zuckerberg
Yep.
and Elon Musk, and the money's the answer. What's the question? And what they're afraid of is AI could run this world 100 times better than the clowns that are running it in Russia, China, the United States. It's crazy. And the AI is just, it's going to be bigger than anyone thinks. And Business Week did the same. So if you, every one of my AI programmers has something else. Like I had a 4-person accounting team. I brought in a Python programmer who's an accountant. Of the other 3, 2 are now gone.
Wow.
I used to have a proofreader. I mean, that was gone. And like, I think in 1 month into it, why do you need a proofreader when this thing doesn't miss proofreading, in 1 second? And
I love that you're using the data that you've accumulated for the last 25 years and now really getting like an AI voice of dentistry based on 25 years of experience. And over those 25 years, I know you've been in dentistry longer than that, but with DentalTown, and seeing what you've seen and having your ear to the ground, what do you think has changed the most in dentistry, and where do you think dentistry is going?
I don't think people ever have work-life balance with things they're passionate about, mission-driven, and love, like raising children. I mean, I can do that 24 hours a day. My 4 boys, my 8 grandkids. I think dentistry has been losing they're losing the steering wheel. The ADA is ran by a bunch of people from dental insurance, and now they're DSOs. I'm not against DSOs because I love competition. We all saw what American Cars were when they banned foreign imports. I mean, they were garbage. And it wasn't until Japan came over here and took 20% of the market that America started making a car. And when I was your age, Delta Dental, the board of directors were specialists that I would have gone to. I would have referred patients, periodontists, pedodontists, pediatric dentists. Now they're lay people, the consumers, and Delta's gone their way. The DSOs, my first job was a DSO. Was Ed Silker, Sunshine
Oh, me
Dental.
too.
He had 4 locations, and they were open 7 to 7, 7 days a week. And all my homies, they were open Monday through Thursday. Well, a real doctor, you can break a leg and go to the hospital, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, someone's there. There's something to be said about group practice. And DSOs does scare me when they're ran by people that aren't even dentists. Again, where's the driver? I mean, look at Boeing. Boeing. I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, and that was Boeing's second biggest factory for the big fuselages. And in Seattle was all that. And then and when I grew up, the CEO of Boeing was always the Kyle Stanley of aeronautical engineers. I mean, it was always legends. I mean, think of like Carl Mish, Pete Dawson. They were
Yeah.
legends. And then Wall Street, money's the answer. What's I said, that's ridiculous. Let's move the headquarters to Washington, D.C., where all the big contracts are. And it only took 3 years, and their planes are falling out of the sky. And you look back at their decisions, they were horrible decisions based on saving money and increasing earnings and giving Wall Street more money. And now lots of people.
Well, let's Howard, let's go deeper into that then. Let's go into some of the problems with DSOs, and let's talk about some of the advantages and what they're doing that's good for dentistry too.
You know that sinking feeling when the same patient keeps coming back for crown after crown? Yeah, we've all been there. Here's the thing. What if we could actually prevent all that mess with a simple bite correction? That's where we come in at Two Front. We handle the whole Invisalign process for you. I'm talking zero ClinChecks, zero lab bills, barely any chair time. Oh, and we take on the liability too. Your patient gets a healthy bite that'll save them thousands down the road. You get to be the hero who prevented years of dental drama. It's honestly a no-brainer. Check out Two Front and start helping your patients dodge a lifetime of dental work today.
I mean, when I got out of school, the only job, if you either had someone in the family, about a quarter of the class, mom or dad was a dentist, and the other 3 quarters had to go work for the government, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Indian Public Health. And now these kids are graduating with so much debt, and DSOs offer so much jobs and so much employment. And some of these dentists just go in there with a bad attitude. And the people that go to work at a DSO and say, okay, I'm working at Heartland Dental. Rick Workman's a dentist. He's a good dentist, and he owns 1,000 locations. I'm pretty damn sure he knows a little bit more about dentistry than I do. And the ones and the ones I mean, I've seen people leave Heartland Dental and take like their best regional manager and set up an office and just crush it out of the gate. It's all in your attitude. But the
Mm,
dentist, but it really scares me when these big DSOs are ran by. They're not even ran by dentists. I mean, they're owned and ran by non-dentists. That's scary. And the clinical. I want dentists to be in the driver's seat of dentistry from
100%.
Hard to GV Black to today. And yeah, dentists, yeah, they wish Delta Dental would pay him $1 million for a crown, and they do one every year on January 1st, and then put their phone on hold and take off. Nobody likes competition, but it's the best thing for the industry. I'll give you the best DSO was Clear Choice. Talk about 1 + 1 = 3. They were 1 + 1 + 1 = 5. They took a prosthodontist, a lab man, and an oral surgeon or a surgeon all in one roof and only in America, teeth in one day, come in and leave with a full set. They did so much advertising. All the local dentists like, who are these clear
They have the best
but all the
advertising.
patients are like, "What is an all-on for? Is that true you can get teeth in a day?" Every oral surgeon I know bitched about Clear Choice while their business just lifted all the boats. That's what competition does. They're better at anything scale, advertising, marketing, all that kind of stuff. But where they're bad and I mean less competitive, hell, I talked to Rick Workman this year on Christmas. I mean, it's not like they're enemies or anything like that. These are sovereign colleagues that are trying to make a difference and believe in their mission. But
So what do you think is the right way to do a DSO? Because we all, our industry loves to hate on DSOs, right? I mean, we love to just say they're the worst, they suck, they're doing the worst dentistry. So what do you think is the right way to do it?
well, first of all, they say that to everybody. They say it to dental insurance, the ADA, DSO. I mean, I've never seen dentists say, you're in fact, you're Ingrid, you're the only happy dentist I've ever met. I mean, and she's out of the closet with it. She's like, hey, one of us is happy. They've never been happy. Dentists are everyone hates competition. But what did you say? What was the best?
So what is the right way to do a DSO? What
The right way to
DSOs,
do it,
and you
the
have to
right
say
way
by
to do a
name, but
DSO is practicing in Phoenix, Arizona. The thing that's killing them is they only keep their doctors a year. I mean,
right.
you meet a kid 5 years out of dental school, he's worked for 5 of them. And
Yep,
if you
that was
can't
me.
keep your dentist, that's massively messed up. In fact, I was
Well, you know what's happening now, Howard, is that I am being called on by a lot of these DSOs to make wellness programs for their doctors so that they have longer careers with these groups.
yeah.
Because they're coming to me and saying, listen, we get all these people, but they burn out after a year. What can you help us with? And so I'm creating wellness programs for a lot of
Yeah,
these
and
big DSOs.
that's probably a good thing. I mean, you saw that in slavery for 500 years, where when they just took the men over, the men all killed themselves, and their productivity was nuts. And it took them 100 years to realize, well, maybe if we bring the whole family, they won't kill themselves.
Oh my
But
god, I can't believe you're comparing dentistry to slavery. I mean, honestly, it's not an unfair analogy, but I get it.
yeah, and the deal is just real simple. This is dentistry, and we're dentists. We just want to drive the steering wheel. And I think
Yeah,
at Heartland Dental,
the
which keeps
clinical
them the
steering wheel.
longest, Heartland Dental keeps them the longest. It's not by fear and contract and force. He just keeps them longest. He's like, okay, let's get a plan in 5 years. You want to get your FAGD, or another ones want to do place implants, and and on Dental Town. I mean, let's be honest. Half of the people in Dental Town love working for the DSO because they're $500,000 in debt and they can get a job in here, whereas Indian Public Health might send you there, the military, Army, Navy, the dental schools where it's just all ran by dentists. That's the most political beast known to man. I've never met a happy dentist at a dental school. They go, good God, the politics in this place are
Oh, it's
insane.
miserable. I mean, at least NYU was miserable.
Oh my God. So dentists have to own up to the fact that, come on, I'm a dentist. We're all dentists. Dentists are batshit crazy, okay? And but the whole planet's batshit crazy. We're just all crazy in different ways.
Howard, do you think that the way to do dentistry right is kind of the reason that DSOs were started? Because when my dad got out of school in 76, he worked for Beecham that turned into Western Dental, right? And he was saying at the beginning, DSOs started because we dentists are terrible at doing everything else except for dentistry, right? We know how to prep a crown, we know how to take a tooth out, we know how to make a denture, we know how to straighten teeth, but we don't really know how to be a leader. We don't really know how to manage money. We don't really know how to run a business. So the whole idea at the beginning seemed great. You do the dentistry, we'll handle all the soft skills, and everybody's happy. But then when I think what happened that turned to be negative was the creep started to happen where the people that were just supposed to stay on the business stuff started having input into the clinical part. I know I went to one when I was just out of residency, went to a DSO for a working interview. I came, there were two tiny little kissing carries on like a 14-year-old kid. I said, I'm going to do an MO and a DO. And the non-dentist office manager came to me and said, "No, those are
Oh
crowns
my
and root
God.
canals." And I was like, "Wait, you're not a dentist. Why are you telling me how to practice?"
Yeah.
And so I think that's what happened was when you had the business people start influencing the clinical, that's when the negative happens. But I know that my brother's part of a DSO that or a DPO, let's say, and they don't tell him how to do clinical. They just focus on helping him with the business side, and he loves it.
Yeah, saying DSO is like saying private practice. I mean, there's like 1,300
Right.
DSOs. And same thing with Delta Dental. There's like 38 different or 19 or some huge number of Delta Dentals. You can't compare Delta of Arizona to Delta of California and all that.
Right.
But two succinct points I got to make. Money's the answer. What's the question? Why is the dentist an employee? Why aren't they publicly traded? Look at some of the crazy crap publicly traded on the S&P 500, but a root canal filling and crown isn't publicly traded.
What do you mean by
And
that, Howard?
they don't have equity. I mean, if I work for you, why don't I work for you
Oh,
at a
100%.
DSO and every paycheck, 10% of it is in stock. And I'm in a
We've
group
talked about that
practice.
before on the
Yeah, we
podcast,
talk about that
actually.
a lot, and I think
Yeah.
you're 100% right. It all comes down to money. And I was just talking with one of our clinical advisors yesterday, who's one of Invisalign's top clinical advisors, Dr. Dave Boschkin, and they pay him an annual. They pay him shares every single year, a couple thousand shares, and that's the way it should be. He lectures for them 50 times a year. And they issue him shares every year. So you're 100% right. And Kyle, I just want to double down on what you're saying. People need clinical autonomy. They need culture. They need a really good culture, and they need to make enough money. And I think that's what no one talks enough about is that if you have clinical autonomy, but you don't make enough money, it's not going to work out, especially in this environment where student debt is so high. So I'm curious, for our listeners, I talk to so many of our listeners on Sundays. I'm curious, how do we empower these young dentists that have student debt? They're stuck in business. How do we empower them to be a happy dentist? Which I think, and I'm curious what you think, means they have clinical autonomy and they can make enough money.
Well, I graduated May 11, 87, and I had my office open September 21st. I dove in head first. I jumped off a building and figured out how to build a parachute on the way down. And at the same time, I got married and I had made 4 boys in 60 months. I said, well, this is the time. This is insane. This is crazy. I'm not going to walk around and be an associate for 5 years and waste all my youth. And having kids is the most insane decision you'll ever make in your life. It's 24/7. There's no work-life balance. For 10 years, they just eat, puke, and poop in your bed. And I said, you know when it's time to do that? Right now, before you overthink it, before you get in the comfort zone, before I'm working at a DSO that pays me just enough to kill all my dreams. And now I got a wife and a couple kids. And she's like, really? You're going to quit the sure thing and go start random scratch? So I say, if you're going to have kids, I don't want a law that says everybody has to have a dog. And I'm not saying everybody has a kid. If you don't want to have a kid, I don't want you to have a kid. But if you're going to have a kid, and if the end goal is private practice, you dive in head straight right at school and you say, well, I'm $500,000 in debt. Oh, so $500,000 in debt is okay to be a slave, but it's not okay for financial independence. I mean, this is how dentistry is ran. 1.6 million dentists around the world. Not even 1% of those work for a DSO. 99% all the way back to G.V. Black, Pierre Fichard. But I want to go back to DSOs where, people, they can't realize that they're fanatics that the whole subject's bad. Like DSOs aren't all bad. I mean, that's an insane thing. They got happy customers are coming back. Employee turnover is a problem because they're employees. They didn't go to school 8 years to be Ingrid's bitch. And they went there for their own vision. And usually they were looking at some dental office that they went to as a little kid, and it was a small office and it was independent. But go back to the DSOs. Look at Chick-fil-A is so amazing. I mean, here's
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's, the kingpin, doing $3 million a store. Here comes Chick-fil-A, and they got purpose, and they're not afraid. I mean, what's wrong with saying that you're a Christian? There's only 1,600,000,000 of them. My 2 oldest sisters are Catholic nuns. What's wrong with that? But they gave them off Sunday, and they're doing 5 million a store. But here's the nuance: not just a purpose-driven. You're only allowed one location. That's what McDonald's and Chick-fil-A did. So all your any heart and dreams and desires you have for being a provider for your family, a protector, the leader of your family, you're going to get it out of this one location. And whereas you go to Burger King, you can buy 8 or 9 or 10 franchise. You can get out of the NFL and say, you know, I want to invest in Burger King. And that's why when you go to Burger King and order French fries, there's always an onion ring or a tater tot at the bottom because the office manager is running 8 locations.
Howard, let's dig into that. Why do you think Chick-fil-A makes more money per store? And by the way, they're also our avatar for customer service because they're known for having some of the best customer service in the world. Why do you think it's good for one owner to only be able to own one store?
Because every major religion said you need a day off. The Muslims took Friday, the Jews took Saturday, and the Christians took Sunday. They closed down. They're serious about that. There's other restaurants. When I went to B school, they showed us deals about these big chains that tried to maximize their land and building costs. So they'd serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the average manager would quit after 3 years as he went to rehab. And they say, okay, you can't tell your people do 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and not have them become alcoholics in just 3 years. So they got rid of the breakfast and they said, okay, we're going to have a healthy lifestyle. We're going to have a day off, or we're not opening on Monday. And we're just going to come in and do, noon to 9 or whatever. And their profit went up because their employees were rested. Their employees were focused. But back to the management, when you have one box, I'm an owner. I'm not an employee. I work for DSO, but I own 20% of the stock of this company, and it's a group practice, so I can take 2 weeks off and go to Perth, Australia, or Spain or Brazil. I can take a vacation because I got balance, because I can leave and I got stock ownership. And when your office manager it's hard to manage a single dental office. Every dentist on DentalTown. Kyle just said that, dentists are that their weakest link is all the business, yet some office manager can run 8 locations. Are you out of your mind when everybody only comes here? And we saw what happens when you do add Saturdays and Sundays, the staff turnovers and the no-shows, and it gets crazy. But if there's nobody open Saturday and Sunday and you're 60 years old and have grandchildren, why do you work Monday through Thursday? That's pretty damn tough.
Howard, I love what you're saying, and this goes back to a lot of what I teach with mental health. So many times when I have dentists that come to me that have burnout, they want to quit, they're frustrated, I tell them to take a day off. And they're like, what do you mean I can't take a day off? I've got people booked out, and I've got staff, and I've got this. And literally every time, and I don't think I have one yet, but I think literally every time they take a day off a week, they make more money, they're happier, and their team is happier as well. And I've seen it so often. Why is it that we dentists can't fucking stop? We just want more and more and more and more. We want to do more dentistry, help more people, and we do it to our own detriment. We do it until we burn out, till we go to rehab.
It's like a musician where they all tell you in their early drug days they thought they needed the heroin and the drugs to perform. And then when they finally got clean, they look at their performance and go, that's embarrassing. Okay. And when I go into dental office that have too many hours, every time you walk, here's a litmus test for yourself. Hey, buddy, homie, check yourself in the mirror. Every time I go into a dental office, 9 times out of 10, guess where the dentist is when I just randomly walk in? Guess where he is?
In the chair.
Back office.
They're always in their private office. And then what are you doing? Oh, I'm waiting on the assistant to make a temporary. And you scheduled 90 minutes. The ones that do 4 6-hour days, like I would go in there and I would, press the flash, what's going on? I would numb, I would set a timer. While I'm setting a timer, I'd take a shade and I'd take the impression material for the temporary. And then when the timer goes off, I would prep. And then
So you were efficient. You ran an efficient business.
30 minutes. It took me 30 minutes. Like, look at reduction coping. Why don't you do a big survey of any DSO you're consulting about how many reduction copings they get back?
Howard, I work for one of the biggest, I'm the clinical director for one of the biggest labs on the West Coast. And I'll tell you, the preps are horrible. The preps are
But a
terrible.
reduction coping means that you took the final impression before you made the temporary.
Howard, I want to double down. I want to just highlight one thing that you said a couple minutes ago that I think is so important for our listeners to understand. People talk about DSOs versus private practice all the time, right? Like that's like the biggest topic. Which one is it, DSOs or private practice? What you're saying is that that's not the question. The question is, do you have ownership? And this goes back to all the philosophers from the 1800s that people want to put their name behind something. So if you have ownership, that's what truly matters, right?
Yeah. And as far as private practice, I mean, name a DSO where the leader murdered his wife, poisoned her protein shakes. I mean, there are private practices that are disasters, and the dentists need to be locked up and go to jail. I've never seen that in a DSO. I've never seen
Mm,
anything remote like that. So it's just like racism to say that everybody in Vietnam does this or everybody in Thailand
totally.
does this. I mean, people always ask me, what is an average dentist? I don't even know. They're half boys, half girls, half tall, half short, half bald, half have a face for TV, the other half have a face for radio. I mean, there's no average, but yeah, you need to have ownership. They need to be in the driver's seat. And when that is your kid, you don't say, I need some work-life balance, and mom, you need to come in here and take off every Saturday and the other, if it's your purpose and your passion and you're in control and you can fire the office manager when she says bullshit like that, like you're telling me that I went to 8 years of college and I can't diagnose an X-ray, and you're telling me you're fired. See that door there? Get your ass out of there right now. We don't have any that is bullshit with a capital B. They don't have that power. And you know what's so funny? I have so many dentists that quit their job because they just get tired of the temporary staff. I mean, a dentist got out of school. He's only done like 5 root canals in his whole life, and he didn't sleep last night. You forget the days when you couldn't sleep the night before placing an implant. You're just like, oh my god, I gotta place a single implant tomorrow, and you're losing your mind. I've been there, done that, and I had my
I know.
fellowship from the missions too. And then they show up to do it, and their girl Friday, oh yeah, she's not there. We got a temp. And it's like, oh my God, the
So,
staff there.
Howard, for one takeaway for our listeners is if you want to be a happy dentist, step one right now, if you don't have clinical autonomy, walk out the door, right? Is that what you're
Oh, if you
saying?
feel yeah, yeah. And if somebody without a degree tells you how to do clinical dentistry, you should walk up to the other and say, okay, I'm going to drive straight to the Arizona State Board of Dental Examiners and talk about your practicing without a license, or you're going to fire that bitch right now, because that ain't how dentistry runs. I mean, they say things like, well, 35% of your patients should need scaling and root planing. How would you like to go to a urologist and say, well, 30% of my patients should have an STD, so we're just
Wild.
going to treat you for gonorrhea, even though you don't have it?
Based on what you're talking about, why are 18% of dentists in rehab?
Well, okay, that's a very complex question, but they just came out with they finally got a diagnostic deal on alcoholism just a few years ago, and that is you take your baseline pulse, you take a shot of alcohol like vodka, you wait 5 minutes, and you take your pulse again. For 10% of the 8 billion people, the pulse will go up. It metabolizes it like a stimulant, and you're going to have all the train wreck stuff. The other 90%, it's a depressant. But when you look at populations, you go as high as that 10% for the globe turns out to be 40% for Ireland, Germany, Ukraine, Russia, Japan, China. The Chinese migrate over, and the American Indian. So, you got a lot of dentists that look like a lot of those segments of population where it's 40%, but it's 10% in general. And they go to parties and they don't realize that 90% of the people playing around with beer, they can have 2 beers and it treats it as setup. You know how they learned it? It was from what's it, margarita, tequila, a margarita tequila. The boozers kept saying everybody's reporting a different high on tequila. So they studied it. Tequila is the only alcohol where the 8 billion herd treats it as a stimulant. And
Mm.
that's why, I mean, I remember I had a dental assistant, and she hated her brother-in-law because whenever he went out with her husband, they did shots of tequila, and then he'd wreck the car. He came home one night so drunk he walked into the closet, peed in the closet, and then laid down on it and passed out. And she goes, he never does this with Corona beer or wine or anything like that. So you have that factor. And then you have a culture where they're still advertising alcohol and all the, in fact, they even make fun of alcohol. It's that commercial like, yeah, it's illegal to drink alcohol during a commercial. 3, 2, 1, and just as they go to sip, it cuts the commercial. Well, you're making fun of the biggest train wreck around the world. I mean, when you look at family crisis, the number one call to 911 is family domestic abuse violence, like 40% of the calls. And guess what? Did you know that alcohol and drugs were involved with a lot of those phone calls? We just don't take it serious. And
So what do you think that has to do with dentistry?
well, I think a lot of dentists have the access to the medication. I mean, look at the highest deal is anesthesiologists. 40% of anesthesiologists will go to rehab, and it's because of fentanyl, believe it or not. They call it the one-hit addiction, and eventually they're having a bad day, they're going through a divorce, they have financial.
So we have the perfect storm. We
Yeah,
have the
well put.
stress, we have the money, and we have a DEA license that we can write ourselves our own
Yeah,
drugs.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, anesthesiologists proved it years ago. 40% of them, I mean, we're talking go to treatment.
That's a
I'm sure
wild statistic. That is
yeah.
like, everyone needs to know that.
And they're always found, when I talk to doctors, they're always found like in the bathroom. They'll like go in the bathroom to shoot in between their toes and pass out. And then someone opens the door and there's their anesthesiologist passed out on the floor with a syringe in his toe. And that fentanyl is wild stuff. I got a crazy story about that. It was the first 3 sons were all born natural. And the wife on the 4th one was just like, I just can't do this. I said, get an epidural. I said, and she goes, well, I want to do it natural. I said, great. Let's get Dr. Lamaze in my office. I'll pull all 4 of his wisdom teeth naturally. He can hold your hands and you can breathe and blow. It's just pressure, Dr. Lamaze. It's just pressure. And I said, I couldn't imagine squeezing a 9-pound monkey out of my rear end. I mean, that is insane. So I said, okay, I'll try it. I asked the anesthesiologist if I could watch and he could tell me what he's doing. And the first thing he did, he said, first we put a long acting and we put in fentanyl. Oh my God. My ex grabbed my arm. She goes, what was that? And the guy starts laughing and he goes, that's fentanyl. And she looks at me. This is the most straight-laced woman out of Kansas you ever meet in your life. She goes, do you have that in your office? And
Oh my
and
God.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
one hit. What is and then she kept talking about it for like, like when she woke. I mean, she kept talking about it for like the whole day. Like, what was it again? And I'm like, Propanol.
So, so Howard, so Howard, with all this stress, with all these crazy things happening in dentistry, how did you stay happy for 30 years?
Well, I mean, we all have our moments. We all have our crashes. We all have our ups and downs. I've gone through, like, I just had a divorce. I've had very highs, very lows. I mean, in fact, when someone says, who's Kyle Stanley? You could be 2 different people in one day. You could be all mad and sad in the morning, all happy
Oh,
in the
true.
afternoon. You could be one
Yeah.
person in your 20s, one in your 30s. I think the whole world is you got to treat yourself like an animal, man. Are you getting 8 hours of sleep? Are you waking up to a monster bowl or something that used to be alive, a plant, an animal, a fungi? Are you wake up to a monster bowl and a cup of coffee and a Starbucks? That's not food. I noticed that with my staff. What I do with my staff, my office manager, on the way to work, we were right next to a Safeway. I said, they're stressed out and they always go back there and that stress and they eat and they cram a bunch of shit in their mouth. You go get a vegetable tray and you can buy unhealthy food if it's healthier than what they're eating. I mean, they're eating chips and Doritos and crap like that. And monkeys, when they get stressed, they like to eat. And that break room was always just healthy habits. The refrigerator, you open those bottled
Wow.
protein shakes. You could dip some carrots. I know you're not supposed to dip carrots in ranch, but if you're not going to eat a dry carrot, then have some ranch with it. You're getting some carrot,
This is like an epidemic in dentistry, and I'm sure. And have you heard of Dr. Mark Hyman with Function Health? He's now leading this nutrition revolution and really putting it out there that food is either medicine or it's poison. And this is something that my family, my parents are physicians, and obviously we have all of our entire dental community. This is pervasive, right? We are in healthcare, but our break rooms are filled with not real food. They're filled with these with poison, essentially, literally, actually. And I think it's interesting that you're basically saying you're an animal. Feed your body actual nutrition. Howard, I want to pivot the conversation a little bit and ask you, if you were to graduate this year, 2025, with the average amount of debt that a dentist has, with everything that you know from your community about AI tools, you're a general dentist, what would you do? Would you start a
Well,
practice?
number one, when I was young, buying a practice was super successful because the owner carried. And if he's selling it for 500,000, you had to go get a loan for 100. He carried the other 400, and he knows that you would work in this office and you wouldn't because everybody here is your demographic speaks French. This guy's from Brazil and whatever. He was picking the winner, whereas now the banks, they just want the highest bidder, the highest loaner, and you hear them, they tell you to their face. They go, I bet that guy didn't even last a year. And I'm like, you just sold your practice for 800,000 to a guy and you don't even think he'll last for a year. Then what the hell did you do that for? Are you a sociopath? But when the owner carries, and then you get the crazy patient, because everyone's crazy at any some given time in their life. And he goes, oh, that's Mrs. Jones. I'll take care of Mrs. Jones. I'll come in out, whatever. But I would find a mentor, and I wouldn't find a mentor in implants and cosmetic dentists and any of that kind of stuff. I'd go in there. There's 3 practices for sale in this town, and the average staff has been in this office 2 years, this office 3 years, and this office 8 years. How did he reduce the staff turnover? That's what's wrong with the DSOs. They come in my practice, they say, well, I went in there and they said I had a $5,000 treatment plan. I had like 9 cavities. I went in there to start it and the doctor's not even there. And then some other person said I didn't need 9, I needed 11 or 8 or some other deal. Then they did this side and then now they're gone. It's musical chairs. Go to Walgreens Pharmacy. You never see the same pharmacist twice. It's like, hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm sure I'll never see you again.
So, Howard, just so we're crystal clear, if you were to graduate in 2025, you would go out and purchase a practice because you want ownership with the practice that has the least amount of staff turnover. That's how you would choose your practice.
And the owner carries. So the owner's betting, the owner's sizing me up and saying, I see you, I see my office, and I know you can do this. And since I have 80% of the carrying money, which you can get at 10%, you're not going to find 10% anywhere else. He might say, you need to go listen to Kyle about nutrition, or you need to take courses in this. And no, you're not going to learn all on 4s because we're in Beeville, Texas. And you know what they need? They need molar endo. And the other dentists are making them drive to San Antonio and Houston for 2.5 hours for root canal. You're going to learn molar endo. And you're like, no, I hate molar endo. Everybody hates the first 100 molars. But after 1,000, I'd rather do a molar endo than play golf.
It's funny what you're saying is having incentives align. It's kind of like, Ingrid, how me and Christian always talk about, if we can have the incentive aligned between keeping the patient healthy and us making money,
Prevention.
and that is the best way to do it, right? Through prevention. And this is kind of the same thing what Howard was saying is like, if the buyer and the seller both have a good incentive, it's not just I make the most money and get out the fastest, but it's I can make money by making you successful and picking the right person. I think it's really interesting.
That's exactly what this book that I always reference, Think and Grow Rich. That's a little bit like my business religion. That's one of the things that Napoleon Hill talks about, is that there's no business transaction where one person benefits more than the other, whether that's between an employer and an employee or between a buyer and a seller. So I just think it's a really important thing for dentists to really internalize, because a lot of times it's like, oh, well, we're going to pay you $8 an hour, whatever it is, right? But you're not going to win. It has to be an equally valuable relationship to both parties, is what we're saying.
And it also, I know I'm going to piss off a lot of people now in DentalTown that's advertising, but it shows you the true dark side of advertising. Advertising is bullshit. Go ask McAllister, my classmate in Joplin, who's never advertised one time and is the biggest price. Advertising is word of mouth referral. I take care of Ingrid so good that she refers Kyle. When they make a phone
100%.
call and they're checking out and they say, well, do you live alone? Are you married? You got kids? Oh yeah, I got. Well, when's the last time you had a TV? But it's that, and then when that chart comes in, so what the big meals do is they're so good at advertising, they don't give a shit if 80% of their customers never come back. They don't care if 90%. They got a machine that can deliver 100 new heads to this office, and they're going to make money on it. And Phoenix has a 5 million metro. The city's a million. The metro's 5.1. Can you believe that? So if you're, how long would it take 100 new patients a month for you to burn through 5 million people? So they just keep burning them and burning them and burning them. And then the chart, they come in there. I mean, look at the doctor's chart. Have you ever had gonorrhea, syphilis? What's your blood pressure? What's your address? What's your zip code? Instead of psychographic, why are you here today? What are you expected to get done? What's the what have you liked the most about any dental office you've gone to? What have you liked the least? What would you never want? And they start telling you, well, I'm afraid and I'm embarrassed, or I just don't want to see the needle, or they just want to be heard. And that first appointment is that you don't meet the patient in the operatory. The first appointment, you meet the patient like a human.
So Howard, what I hear you saying is that we have to have an extreme focus on customer service, which, if I'm being honest, I run a virtual orthodontic practice for dentists. I've been building this for 7 years now. I haven't done a single ClinCheck or treated patients in 5 years. And so obviously I'm not working in the business, I'm working on the business. And I have a controversial opinion, which is that I don't think you can do both. I think that working on the business versus in the business is a full-time job, because working on the business means that you're developing the best customer experience. How could you possibly do that if you're seeing patients 8 hours a day? What do you think about that?
Well, and you also see in Wall Street, you take an industry like, say, an airline industry, like from 80 to 90. Say you have 4 airlines, and this airline, their average employees been there 7 years, this one 6 years, this one 5 years, this one 4 years. The profitability goes right down. You can't train a new staff. What are you going to do? Have them watch an hour video, have them watch 1 hour of your podcast. You know how you train a staff? You reduce your staff turnover. One year turns into 5, and 5 turns into 10. My first assistant started with me and ended with me. We retired together. I had so many people that made it 25 years. In fact, when I sold it, the new hygienist, the brand new one we had been there 9 years. And the old one should have been taken behind the barn and just put down, as this whole damn old. I took her to the vet and he said she's too old to be put down. And and that's relationships. And I saw it in the office. Like, I would be standing there and they'd call and they'd say, yeah, is Jan there? Jan's busy, but Dr. Fran's standing right here. Okay, well, have Jan call me. I want to talk about
Yeah,
that.
right.
And it's like, wow. And then Jan would come in and get me, since I say, oh, the lady in your next patient, she is ready to murder you because of blah. Oh, she's so mad. She's going to kill you. And I walk in there and she goes, oh, hi, Dr. Farran. It's great to see you. And I said, well, how's that tooth doing? And she goes, it's good. And Jan's behind like, what? He had a trusting relationship with Jan, or this hygienist, and it's built for years. And bringing in a temp hygienist because she's on pregnancy leave. Well, why don't you just scatter? I'm having a baby. I'm not going to be able to clean your teeth in 6 months. Would 7 be all right? Would 8 be all right? Or whatever.
Relationships are at the center of everything. So
You
Howard,
don't need any marketing. You need to reduce your staff turnover and the customer experience.
I have one more question for you, which I think would be super valuable to our listeners. So you would start a practice today. You'd go after the practice that has at least amount of staff turnover, and you'd focus on the customer experience so that you don't have to focus too much on marketing. You just mentioned that advertising on DentalTown, or advertising in general, is bullshit, because if you're delivering the best experience, then you should be able to attract referrals. So given that all technology companies basically have to advertise, if you were to start a practice today, what technologies would you implement based on all the data that you've collected on DentalTown over the past 25 years?
Okay, let me nuance my last answer of the very important nuance, and that is, when I buy an existing practice for 20 years, there's no risk. It's working. Okay, I don't have to do demographics and I don't have to do market testing. The thing works, and it's been working for 20 years. Now, if I was going to start my own, I would go about 2 hours from wherever a Southwest airline lands. So you're rural. I mean, rural. And they drive for an hour and a half. They go to Walmart. I'd get something visible from a Walmart parking lot or on the way to Walmart or whatever. And I would set up there. As far as what technology, if you look at the human brain, the part that's running the eyes looks like 2 big lemons, and the part running the ears is 2 little limes. Like, people at a party, they'll go up to you and they go, I'm sorry, what was your name again? They know your face.
Yeah.
They know it's you. And their opposing thumb can hold a car, but they can't hold sound. So anything visual, intraoral cameras, digital radiography, anything this primate can look at with their eyes, they'll understand. And then you got to talk stupid simple. You're not having endodontic therapy on tooth number 9. we need to do a root canal up here, or see where that big cavity. I mean, talk like they're 5, because everybody has the same brain, but we put all of our energy in one little wheelhouse. In fact, look at business. Every one of those CEOs only did one thing. In fact, my idol was Yamaha. He's the only guy who did 2. He did motorcycles and keyboards to number 1. And that was because in his work-life balance, after he worked on motors all day at Yamaha, he wanted to go home and play the piano, but he couldn't lug that damn piano around. It was too damn heavy. But so you got to talk to everyone like they're 5, because like when you talk to me about plumbing and crab fishing and every other subject known to man, I know nothing about what you're talking about. And when you're talking dentistry, you have an asymmetrical relationship. So talk it down. And the only way to do that is you open up your notepad, and you open up your notepad on your deal, and you open up a new note. And then right there on the bottom is the speaker. And you start saying, "Hi, Ingrid. How are you doing today?" And you tape yourself doing that whole deal. Then afterwards, drop it in ChatGPT and say, what percent of this would the average patient have no idea what I'm talking about? And they'll take that gazillion 6,000 words and get it down to like 3 and probably
Howard,
half words.
that is so brilliant. It's actually, we do that at Two Front. We dumb everything down actually to 8th grade level, because we realize that if you say 5-year-old, it dumps it down too much, is what we found. So we put all of our messaging through 8th grade level, literally everything. So
Yeah, you're right.
it's so brilliant that you say that. I know we have 1 minute left. You have so much brilliance, which is obvious. You've been doing this for so long. You've been vetting so many technologies and so many, dentists over the past 25 years. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your wisdom.
Can I make one plug for myself?
Of course.
Brian, come around the corner, right? Come around the corner. I have 4 kids. This guy, my son, he's so tall, handsome, and smart. I'm sure his mom cheated on me. I won't even do the DNA test. I don't even want to know. He's a crackpot programmer, and he's the one he beat in my head. He said, "Dad, you have 25-year website with 10 million posts. You have 1,700 podcast transcripts. You have 650 online CE courses. Let's roll all this," and he did it, "into an AI large language model." And you know what our problem was? Whether it was Together AI, Hugging Face, they said your data set is too big.
Wow.
So we're getting ready to release this in like a month. We've been working on it for a year and a half, where you'll be able to go on to DentalTown, ask it any question, and instantly it'll go through all of that and tell you the answer. We even got into PubMed and downloaded all 70,000 of their research articles.
Wow.
So DentalTown, and we wanted to name it Hermie. We always called it Hermie after the elf on Santa Claus, where
That's what my wife calls me.
yeah, and it's like, "What's wrong?" He goes, "I want to be a dentist." But we couldn't get Hermie, but we were already in love with Hermie. So the team, I said no, but they wanted to call it Howie. And we're gonna launch probably, what do you think, within a month?
Yeah, about a month.
Probably about a month away. We've been working on this 18 months with 13 AI programmers, and
Wow.
it's gonna blow your mind.
I like
Because-
Howie.
Yeah, because if I say Mary had a little lamb, that's what ChatGPT would say, because that's 8
Yeah.
billion people talking. But when everybody's talking dentist, it might be Mary had a little molar, and she had a little ledge, and she had a little clip. And we've been testing them side by side. And it's just amazing to take 25 years of shared posts, and now some kid in another country that's still in dental school could ask the question and get the answer with links to any research needed. I am so excited about AI. It's going to change everything.
You're talking to 2 people that are building AI companies, so that makes all of us. Thank you so much, Howard. Where can people, silly question, where do you want people to reach you?
On DentalTown. And my email's howard@dentaltown. And that's been the same forever. And they're not happy. I'm so glad what you're doing, because 25 years going around the globe, I learned 2 things. The whole planet's on the same page. When the whole planet's going right or left or war or peace, they're all on the same page. And we're in a grumpy state right now. The planet's not happy. You got wars in Russia and China and Taiwan, and politics is insane. And they're mad at the ADA, they're all grumpy, but that's good, because they're way grumpy, and I've watched this, so they're going to start getting happier soon. It always, just when you think it couldn't get any worse, it starts coming back the other way. And with AI, we're gonna be able to find out how the answers to our problems faster, easier, higher quality, better, and cheaper.